happening, it's happening, it's happening.
Good evening. I'm actually gonna introduce this evening because normally I just sit here and then go, I need to contribute. So
You contribute a lot.
and thank you for taking time out to watch it live or later on when we've uploaded it to our little chat tonight about connecting with your power.
Good evening, everyone. From London.
We're still in London at the moment.
At the moment, we took a little break from our Facebook Live conversations because we were traveling, but we're back. We're back to the roots, London roots. So, connect with your power. It's kind of a vast topic, but let's go into personal.
Well, a vast topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it really?
Let's say that everyone is born with his own power, right? At least that's my opinion. And along the way, somehow, we grow up and we lose it, or some of us lose it. So how does that happen?
I think is the question that we don't pre-rehearse these conversations.
This is all improvised.
We just decide to talk about it, and discover as we go along. Is it that we're born and then along the way we're influenced and by good advice and bad advice, by good leaders and bad leaders, and we stop trusting our instincts?
That's a good one. I really believe in instincts.
Yeah, I massively believe in instincts. And is it that we stop listening to the inner voice, I don't know how many times you've done something where, in a moment you've known it's the wrong decision, but you, for whatever reasons, social relationships or peer pressure, you choose to do something.
I do that. I knew it was wrong. I knew I had to collaborate with a specific legal office to sort out some stuff, and I had the initial meeting and all that, and I knew it's the wrong group of people to work with. I just knew it, but for some reason I decided, because friends referred these people, and I said, okay, let's give it a go. So it took a long process to sort that out and a lot of money lost just because I didn't trust my instinct.
Yeah.
I went out of that office and I said, I'm not sure about this, but I really need this to be dealt with, and I went with them, but it was a big mistake.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody can relate to that in a number of different scenarios and situations. I think I'm very grateful to be somebody who had the experience of being a fighter, because I came from absolute poverty, and I know you did too. And so I found my community and my kind of friendship group, and I grew up in an area that was really rough, and and there was lots of mixed groups and racial problems, and being half Turkish, half Irish with a name like Cengiz made you a bit of a target, and but thankfully I had the martial arts in my life because of my uncle. And I think as a fighter in a sport, kickboxing, where there's not much money at the time, it's changed a lot, but there's still not much money in kickboxing. There is in UFC cage fighting, as you know it, and obviously boxing, but it was never about the money. But I think I'm very grateful for that process, because through that journey I really got clear about who I am and what I want, and I think for me it's where I found my power.
So you mean the journey of becoming a professional athlete?
No, just the journey of fighting for stuff that you, at the time, that you believed in, physically or academically, or however. We're all fighting for things. If you're pursuing stuff, you're out every day and you're working towards a specific goal. For a period of time, mine was physical. It was training to compete against somebody, to win that fight, to move to the next level, to hopefully become a champion. But the fight was always with myself, because a good example. I remember being one of the main events on a show, and which meant I was going to be fighting at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I'd had my second weigh-in at about midday, and I was just taking some downtime in the changing room, and I was sleeping, and I remember like a shadow kind of coming over my face. There was a light kind of above me, so I kind of could see light from my eyes, and then it just went dark, and I opened my eyes, and there was a heavyweight fighter standing over me, no names mentioned, but he was like, "How can you sleep?" And I was like, first of all a bit shocked that someone's asked me this question, and it was like that kind of like, I need to answer this guy because he's so stressed and so uncomfortable. And I was like, look.
Were you fighting against him?
No. We were sharing a change room. He was he was third on, and I was the main event. And I said, the reason I can sleep is because I choose to be here. There is no doubt in my mind about, have I prepared properly? I've chosen to be there. It's like, so, in that moment, you just know what your purpose is, and you're very clear about who you are. And I truly believe that the power is always with knowing who we are, and that might not always work for a lot of people. I've had to let go of lots of relationships over the years because we just don't
match.
We don't match.
Energy.
Yeah, and you can work side by. You've probably heard this. I've heard me say this before, but you can work side by side people, and you can work around people, but it's very hard when you go head to head.
So I would say like to reconnect with your power, or it's probably being focused as you were to achieve your goals. First of all, decide what your goals are, and then being focused to achieve them.
I think,
and follow your instincts along the way.
Yeah, but also asking yourself some pretty straightforward, honest questions and answering them honestly. And we won't go into some of those now, but I've asked many times in my life, I've sat down and I've asked myself really hard questions that have a massive impact on your life.
Like what?
So I guess the most extreme was I was married. And, I realised that, I'm saying this for the first time, but, I realised that there was a kind of friendship there and a support structure there, but there wasn't, we weren't in love, and it was very, what's the word? It was very kind of like corporate, a very kind of corporate kind of relationship. Like everyone has their chores and their role, and you do that and you do this, and having to ask yourself that question, do you see yourself remaining in this relationship for the rest of your life? And the answer was instantly no, because life's too short, and for that person and for me. And so you have to be honest, I think, with yourself and what you want, and we talked about time, energy, money before in one of our conversations, but time is so precious, and I don't want to take up somebody's time, and I certainly don't want to, not give away or just not be conscious of the time that I have. I don't know how long I have on this planet, but I want to try and make the most out of it and enjoy it and contribute to other people, as well as obviously be truthful to what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah, so probably like this is like a wake-up call, being aware of the clock is ticking and the time limit that we have here. I don't know, depends on your beliefs what's happening next or what was before, but living in the moment and being aware that the clock is ticking, maybe it will help you to reconnect with your power and listen less to others.
There's a lot of the people who pressurize, I think, individuals, especially in the kind of types of industries that we're in, as actors or writers or producers, or whatever, where they want you to conform. And it's so. I remember like 5 or 6 years ago when I first went to LA and I had management and agent meetings, and it was so interesting that they just wanted me to be like other people, because they actually said it in the meetings.
How about changing your name? How many times did you hear that one?
Change my name. Number one. Number two, you remind me of, you're a bit like Clive Owen and Jude Law or Tony Curtis. All these kind of names would pop up. And then go on to talk about other clients and other people and
And you have to do this and that because they did this and that.
Yeah, and you're like...
That's exactly the moment where you lose your power.
Yeah, because you just start to conform and do what you think needs to be done to achieve X, Y, Z, and that's where again I come back. I'm grateful I was a fighter because, I'm Cengiz Dervis and I know who I am, and I really, really, really know what I want. And maybe I won't get there, but I will not quit on myself. And I am adamant that I need to be the best me that I can be, and I'm not here to be somebody else. And I would hope that other people are not trying to be other people too. They truly are, living honestly and authentically in there as themselves. Because I like to meet people, like really meet the person, not kind of all the headlines and the kind of surface stuff. I really like to get to know guys, and that's hard with guys actually, and men out there listening. Because I like to have a conversation about real things. I'm not interested in talking about the Rugby World Cup or football. It's just not my thing. I like to get to know somebody and
to know the person.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes when somebody doesn't know who they are or what they want. And I've been in conversations where it's tough when someone's just a bit lost, and that's the power.
How does a person know? Like, there must be a lot of lost people out there, and how do they know that who they really are, or if they're just trying to impress other people? What if people who we think they're disconnected and they are lost and we don't know who they are? They don't know who they are, but maybe in their mind they know. Maybe in their mind they think they know. So how does one person understand that they're really connected to themselves or not?
Everything that we do is a choice, and those choices, however small or however big, have an impact on our lives in the moment and for the future. So how we are perceived, a lot is about the choices that we make. And there's some people will find themselves in a space where they conform to whatever group they're in because they feel they need to say the things to kind of like fit in amongst the group that they're in, that makes them feel like they're really, and sometimes they're not even interested in the subject matter, or they just don't want to be alone, or they want to be a part of something, but they're not even sure why they want to be a part of it. And, it's not something I can comment too much on because that's just not me. I would rather be alone than be superficial and false and try just to fit in on certain groups. So I think when you're honest enough and brave enough, because it's courageous, it's really courageous, I think, to be authentically you, to just really look inside, because everything comes from inside. I truly believe that everything comes from inside. We can't look externally for happiness. We choose that. It comes from within. Obviously, relationships have a big impact on how we feel, but we can still be happy. I've had some really awful times in life, and I've chosen to smile at people. I've chosen to be polite and supportive and stuff, even though my whole world is falling apart. But it's not their fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. Power. What got you from Moldova to London to LA? Somewhere along the way, Sylvia, I honestly think that you've really you looked deep inside and you connected with and were clear about who you are and what you want.
I think listening to my own instincts. So there were moments in my life because coming from Moldova where we had nothing, not even like a bathroom for 14 years in the house. So you would think every next step, every next achievement is a big deal, and it's already better than where you're coming from. But so first I immigrated to Italy with my family, and it was great. but there is something inside you that is telling you this is not your place. You have to move forward. Then I moved to London, and I lived here for a little bit. And again, there was this voice that no, I have to move forward. And then I went to LA. So even in those moments where you think, okay, considering where you're coming from, where you had not much at all, this is a great position to be in. So it was a comfort zone. There were like steps of comfort zones. And probably somebody else would be happy to just stop there and enjoy. And I wasn't. I just wasn't happy. I had everything I needed. I don't know, food. I graduated. I could find any job. I speak 5 languages, so I could find and just settle and enjoy the comfort zone I created. But there was something inside me telling me, no, this is now, you have to move on, and you have to move on. And it was just pushing me, and then I went to America, and I had that experience for several years. So you just gotta follow that voice inside you, which first of all helps you grow, and then you just know when you're in a comfort zone, you know when you stop growing. I had a talk a couple of years ago with a good friend from LA, and I remember we were walking down the street, and I told him, I feel like I'm again in a comfort zone. I lived in LA for like several years, and I'm just kind of stuck, and I know I have to change. And the change came like after 2 months. I booked something massive in Europe and had to give up everything in LA and move back to Europe and did that job. And then we met after a couple of years. So it's just one thing after another. You just know, if you really listen to your inner voice, you know when you're stuck, when you stop growing, and it's time to change something. The problem is many people don't have probably the courage to do that. Like I see with my parents, like their generation, it's very difficult for my parents to get out of a comfort zone, to change a job, to change a place. For them it was already a big deal to immigrate once from Moldova to Italy, and now to do something else or change the field of work, it's like, no, it's out of the conversation.
I guess some people as well, they get into something and they'll stick with that until it's taken away from them. So they'll get a job, and it's like a job for life, and then the job isn't cease to exist, and they're made redundant, or or whatever. And it's so it's like you're giving away your power, because you get into that kind of that routine that ticks the boxes, that allows you to kind of like survive, but there's no growth. And I do think that if we're not growing, we're dying. If there's no purpose, we're not going to be that happy, because without purpose and growth, and curiosity, I've talked about it before, but curiosity is so important. I didn't really know. People look at me and go, he was a fighter, and he's a coach and a trainer, and he retrains as an actor, and he writes, and and it doesn't make any sense to them. He's been involved in some startups as a consultant. It makes no sense to them. So my kind of like, I guess my timeline of career has kind of been like all over the place. But maybe I was just being curious.
Curious, exploring different things.
Yeah, and there was lots of transferables to all the things I've done, but I always make sure I do the things I do to the best of my possible ability. So I become skilled at certain things, or I master certain things. It isn't just about just having surface knowledge. It's about really understanding stuff and being able to implement it, or to even teach it. But maybe I'm just curious. But through that journey, I've kind of really got clear about what my why is, and that may change, and that's fine, because it isn't about finding the one thing and that's all I do for the rest of my life, because that's somebody else's idea. It's certainly not mine. If I want to act in projects, write projects, produce projects, invest in property, whatever it is I want to do, that's up to me. I have the power, because I choose to spend my time, my energy, money pursuing those things. And if people are not interested in it, they have a problem with that, or feel that it kind of like, it's a bit confusing, well, that's on them. It really isn't my bag, because
that's their fear, putting it on somebody else.
Yeah, and so, but being clear about what it, I mean, if someone said, well, if you could do one thing most days of the week, what would it be? I'd be on set. Hands down, I'd be telling stories, hands down. But I don't have the luxury of having that on a daily, weekly basis. I have to fight, as you do, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, for whatever roles we can secure, as long as we believe in them. Because I've got to a point in my career where I'm not willing just to do any role. It has to be something that is of quality. It's good writing, a good team, and I want to see it myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, not giving your power away is such an interesting thing, and it's very easy to reconnect with that, because you just have to be honest. You have to take some time out and ask yourself some straightforward questions. And one of those questions is very simple. It is, what do I want? When is the last time you asked yourself what you want? What do I want out of my career? What do I want out of my relationship? What do I want out of my life? When you ask those questions, what do I want? But really clear about, finding out, what do you really, really want?
I was sharing that with students in Italy last week. Exactly, those 3 questions. So I'll quickly say hello to the Italian friends. Ciao a tutti, soprattutto quelli del Veneto con cui ho lavorato settimana scorsa. Spero che anche questo piccolo video vi aiuterà a seguire i consigli che abbiamo parlato insieme.
And I'll say hello to, I've just seen Peter Hart. Hello, my man.
Hi, Peter.
We must catch up and have a drink at some point, but thank you for tuning in. Always a pleasure. And there's somebody out there that I haven't connected with for quite a number of years, but I know went out, from the little I know about what he did, he went out and he started some businesses and took action. I'm not sure where he is right now with those things, but that's somebody who's created a big part of their career and their future by taking massive action, and lots of risks. And so, whether you know it or not, my man, you've been very courageous, and it's lovely to see.
I'm probably very connected to your own power, because when you're brave like that and go and start things and take action, talk less and do more. That's that's my phrase of the day.
There are times in life where I think you really find out who you are. And it can be in a safe environment. For instance, like you go to the gym and you push yourself and you train really hard on a consistent, regular basis, with focus. Most people don't do that. The fact that you've taken, you're putting that investment into yourself to get yourself physically strong. It takes massive discipline. Going a little bit further than that, you could be pitching for something again and again and again and again, and you're constantly getting no, but you pick yourself back up and you go back at it and you learn from the last meeting and you take that information, you put it into the next meeting and you keep going and you don't quit. Again, it's that what drives you there, I believe, is honestly knowing who you are and the belief that you have in something, that you can see it coming to fruition, but you've got to keep navigating forwards. But you've got to grow in that process. Obviously, if things aren't right, you tweak them and improve them and you carry forwards. For me, there are a number of times in my life where I realised who I was, and obviously as a competitor, being in a fight where you could just kneel down and call it a day, put your hand up, the referee would call it a day, call him throw the towel or whatever, and that's it, the fight's over. But not giving up and pushing forwards, regardless if you win, or lose. And then, turning it around, but knowing all along that you were going to turn it around if you just stayed in it, if you could just be in it for another round. And for me, there were times, one of them was in a fight where I really realised, I really learned who I am. I'm not somebody who quits. And carrying that into everyday life. But it all comes back to, who you are. what do you want? What's your why? And when it's all said and done and you look back, let's not rush to get there, but we're all going to get to a point where we're going to look back.
Yeah.
You know, what do you want that thought process to be? And the power in that is like taking action right now, whatever it is. Anything is possible. Truly, truly is possible. And I know firsthand, you know firsthand, because the small successes that we create are all driven by us. We could go and get a job and work for somebody else. It's not in my DNA. The thought of going and working for, I mean, you're always working with people or for people, but the thought of just going to a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, it's never 9 to 5. It's just not me.
Bring work home.
Yeah. Oh, you stay those extra hours to do a better job, and it's just not me. I love to support in those areas, and I do go into corporates every now and again, and I do a talk or whatever. But I'm not the person who can, because my creativity and my imagination doesn't work well in a kind of restricted kind of like, you must turn up at 8 a.m. and finish at 7 p.m. I just don't work.
That's why you wake up at 6 and work on your own projects. You do more and sleep less.
At times. You can't, the creative stuff happens, you know.
I was talking with a friend in Italy last week who has this school where I was teaching for the weekend, and a drama school. So he said, look, I opened this school, which is doing really well. It's been several years now, and he said he was doing corporate jobs as well, having like working for an insurance company, but he was also a stand-up comedian, being like very creative, but having a secure job. And he said, I love that, and now I really enjoy what I'm doing, but I work more hours. I wake up at 6. I read books, rehearse scenes. Like, he's always at the school trying to create something new. He has a whole new method and amazing students. And it's like, I sleep less, but at least I enjoy it. I do what I really, really love. I work with young actors, and we shoot short films and then web series, hopefully, and so on. So you're sharing that, because when you really love what you're doing, doesn't matter the time. You know, you don't look at it like, okay, it's been 7 hours, now I can rest. No, I'm gonna do more if I really like it, because I have this deadline, I have this goal to achieve. By the way, before we conclude, I just wanted to share that it's really helpful to get clear by writing down your thoughts, your goals, keeping them really straight to you.
Close to your chest.
Close to your chest, as you say.
Getting clear, writing out your thoughts.
It really helps. And when you look back to a couple of years ago, I was talking to my best friend, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. She said, I looked back to a couple of notes from years ago at university, what I wanted to achieve, and I was surprised I achieved everything I wrote those years. It's like, so it really helps and just say, okay, you did well.
So conscious mind and subconscious mind, and then there's the super subconscious. And I believe truly, when you write stuff out, consciously, you could leave that list alone for a week, 2 weeks, for stuff you need to do in the week ahead, and then come back to it without even looking at it for a week, and subconsciously you have just gone to work and delivered on those things, and sometimes super exceeded what you've written out. So writing stuff down is really, really important. I think also getting clear about, if I was to say to you right now, okay, write down 10 things that you want to do, that you think that are on your agenda, that are on your mind, that you think you really want to do in the next year.
Yeah.
And of those 10 things, select the one that would have the biggest impact on your life, and do that first, and then go back to the 9, select the next one that has the biggest impact, focus on that, and then number 8, number 7, number 6, and it's a really good way to get really kind of laser focused about how to get through your to-do list, but prioritizing what's actually important to do first.
You mean daily to-do list, or doesn't matter?
Well, it could be, realistically, I'd like to do these 10 things in the next year,
okay.
Be it personally, professionally, whatever. But when you write them out, you're clear about, because, when people have this stuff in their head and not kind of focusing on it, it can build concern or worry, and indecision creates worry.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates stress. So when you start to get clear about, what are the things that are hanging over me that are actually important, and then get clear about the order that you do them in, and just focus on the one thing and get it done. Move on to the next thing, get it done.
Yeah.
And it's like going to the gym, it's like exercising a muscle that you actually get better and better at getting things done. We have some exciting news at some point to announce, but none of which would have come about if you just don't get things done. Like if you don't work on something to get it to a point where you can, you know, get it to, you know, investors or whatever. That's a physical, tangible thing that actually somebody wants to sees the potential in. And so we won't talk about it right now, but you know, it's relative in the sense that, you know, because it was prioritised and it was focused on and worked on, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, and I experienced that lots in my life, and I've seen it, you know, obviously with you as well. It's that you focus on something and you just get it done, and then you move on and you grow in that process.
And it feels so good when you scratch it off your list. I did it.
Yeah.
You even feel more motivated, more energized to go to the next thing.
So there's no harm. Look, forget harm. It's really, really important to get clear about who you are right now, because it changes. You know, what was important to me when I was 10 is different when I'm 20 and different when I'm 30. You know, it's like, so getting really clear and then checking in with yourself. What's the priority? Where's my focus? What is it I want, you know, personally, professionally, you know, if you're in a relationship and you have a family, what's the family? You know, it's good to ask yourself those questions, but it's really important not to feel guilty to have some, you know, personal goals, and get clear about what those goals are, because sometimes people don't do things because they think that it'll have an impact on their partner. You just have to have those conversations, like, I really want to do this, but it's going to mean time away from the family or time away from you. But when there's open discussion, people generally support each other.
Yeah.
And it's really important to still have those kind of clear ideas of what it is you're trying to achieve. Whether you want to write a book, or you want to, you know, start a business, or you want to quit your current job and do something completely different, or career change, go back to education, whatever it is, don't leave it in the tank because you just, all these kind of concerns that you have that you feel that you aren't able to move forward. Get clear about who you are, get clear about what you want, and then the tribe, you'll find your tribe. It changes as well, you know. It's great to have lifelong friends, but it's also great to build new relationships with new people I have people in so many different industries, and it's wonderful, because you're not restricting yourself to be stuck, you know, doing the same thing year in, year out.
You go and explore, be an adventurer.
Yeah, I love that saying, have an awfully big adventure. And on that, is there anything else you want to add? I talk too much.
I think on that we're going to conclude tonight's conversation. And feel free to comment, to ask questions, to write your point of view on what we spoke about. It's just an open conversation, and you're welcome to be part of it. That's even more fun.
Yeah.
So
and these conversations, I think I'm hogging most of the airtime. Actually wouldn't have come about if it wasn't for Sylvia, because she was the one who sort of said that we have some interesting discussions, and it'd be quite handy to share these things with other people that may find some value in it. So, you know,
hopefully you guys enjoyed.
I've seen some of the messages I've had from people actually thanking for some of the content, and so, you know, I can see the benefits. So well done you.
Oh, thank you. Well done us. It's always fun.
And if you want us to discuss something else, and just please comment, send us a message, and, you know, we'll take on the challenge.
Yeah, we'll see when it's. We'll organize another one next week. So we'll keep you posted. And meanwhile, the bump is growing, so I don't know for how long we'll still keep doing this. But enjoy while it's happening. All right. Yeah. Have a fun day if you're in LA, where it's day, and have a fun night if you're on this side of the ocean.
And start that new adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Talk less, do more.
And just be you. Lean into who you are. Lean into you. That's, you know, I can't, you know, don't worry about being anyone else, like anybody else. Just be authentically you.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.